Hello and welcome to Easy Learning Smart Learning. So today I am going to tell you what is ER diagram or ER model in database management system. Most of the people who are not familiar with the database do not even dare to think that you are not going to understand this because you have listened this topic several times and you face several problems. That is why. So I will try to explore every part of this lecture in a very simple manner because this is very easy thing because ER is a first let's discuss about its full form. E means entity and R means relation. So no problem whether you are studying class 5 or class 7 or maybe in the university college, doesn't matter. So we are going to understand entity relationship diagram. ER diagram is a tool for creating a relational database. Okay, sir, tell me what is a relational database. Relational database, before going to understand what is a relational database, first you have to understand what is a database. A database is nothing but a collection of related information. So related information means everything is related in its base. Means suppose I have a book and you have never seen a book like in the first page you are getting information of engine and in the next page suddenly the topic is changed to aeroplanes and maybe in the third page suddenly the topic is changed to how to cook. So actually you can't say this is a database because the things are not relevant. So what is a database? Again I'm telling you, which is related to each other. All in entire data is related with each other. Say for example, a student serial number, student name and student age and student gender. So all these information are interrelated with each other. You can get any information by any of this column, any of this attribute, any of this property from a database. So this is what a database is. Now what is relational database is the same thing. When you represent the database in the form of table that you have already seen here, so I'm not going to repeat this topic, that what is relational database. When you represent a database in the form of table is known as relational database. Now let's consider what is entity and what is relation in our this lecture. Entity means I think you know about the nouns in English language, English grammar. So in the English language, similarly we have entity in a database. Like I just explained the example student. So you can say that a student is an entity. Another thing is college or you can say university. These are the examples of entity which have some attributes. Attributes or you can say property of entity. Now what are attributes, sir? It's very simple. Suppose if you have a car and so in the car, what are the features of car? I'm not very good in the drawing, but still you have to bear it because anyways, jokes apart. So in the car, suppose you have to imagine about a car. So what is the color of your car? Say for example, my car is blue. What is the size of your car? So it is maybe 2 meter tall approximately. I'm not the engineer, mechanical engineer who designs a car. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. What is the weight of your car? Say for example it is about 350 kilograms. I even have no idea what is the weight of any smallest car or biggest car. I don't know anything about, so just I'm giving you approximate values. So these three things are what? Number one is color. Color is the property of car. Length is the property of car, and weight is the property of a car. So similarly, when you talk about an entity, we have some attributes. What are the attributes? So serial number, roll number, enrollment number, etc, etc, etc. These are the attributes of any entity. in the college, what is the name of college? The first question comes in your mind. What is the name of university? What is the of affiliation number of this college from this university? So these are the example of entity. Okay, let's go to the next topic immediately. What is relation? A relation represents a relation between two entities. Say for example, I am a student and you are a teacher. Sorry, I am the teacher and you are the student actually. But no problem. I am just giving example. Whether I am a student or you are a student doesn't matter. So entity is normally represented by this rectangular box, and relation is always represented by this diamond box. It is not a diamond at all. It is just called a diamond box. So you have to make a rotated square like this. It looks like a diamond. We call this diamond because in the playing cards there is a diamond card, so you know the name comes from there. So this is the relation. Now I am just showing you what is the relation, but I am not telling you what is the relation between student and teacher. So the relation between student and teacher is learning, or you can say learns. A student learns from teacher. Similarly, if you are representing relation between teacher and a student, so teacher teaches whom? Students. So here student is an entity, teaches is the relation, and teacher is the another entity. So you don't have to draw an arrow here, you just have to put only a edge and line between them. It automatically tells you that this is the ER diagram, the simplest form of ER diagram. So I think you understood. Congratulations. What is the meaning of entity and relations? Now we will explore in detail what are attributes of entity, what is different kinds of entity in the DBMS. So let's start that. As we know, some entities are weak. So I am taking a loan from a bank, and maybe I'm going to pay some installments for that. So there are two entities, but you can say that installment is a weak entity represented by double lines of rectangular box. Now why it is weak entity, let's try to understand, so that you will understand entity and another thing is weak entity. Both are very simple thing, and we have to discuss entirely about only entity, but just I'm giving an idea what is weak entity, so that you will create any diagram later on. So an entity which is depends upon another entity is known as weak entity. That's what weak entity is. So that's all for now, because a loan is a strong entity. You don't have to say that this is a strong, but you can just say this is an entity which is not dependent. When you get a loan, so with the loan you get installments also for 5 years installments or 2 years installment, etc. So once you will finish the installments, loans automatically finished, right? So installment is actually dependent upon the loan. So that is why installment is a weak entity example. Let's get into directly attributes of entity. So what are attributes? I just gave you some examples previously, like a student roll number, serial number, etc. So now we will directly jump into types of attribute. So the first type I'm telling you is key attribute. So what is key attribute, sir? Okay, I'm telling you what is key attribute. The key attributes is used to represent the main characteristics of an entity. So actually when you decide that you are going to create an entity for a student, now you have to think about, I'm writing here 3 or 4 attributes like ID, name, age, gender, okay, and one more thing is city that you are residing right now. So what is the most important attribute of this student? So maybe you are thinking ID is the best one. Okay, I'm not going to just ignore all these four. First we have to discuss this. Maybe you know that ID is the best one, but why ID is the most important, we have to discuss that. Okay, if your name is, say for example, Pushpa, okay, Pushparaj, not it, this is only Pushpa, so I am influenced from that movie, so I just said Pushparaj, but no, we have to be in this lecture. Pushpa is your name. So now Pushpa is very common name. Maybe your name is Pushpa, some other person name is Pushpa, so maybe you will get confused. Okay, so that is a secondary thing, because ID is never duplicated by any other person in the world. Okay, so another thing is age. This is also not possible. Maybe your age is 21 or 34, and also there are so many people we have, they have age. And now this name is sorry, this age is also dependent on the name. So actually this age is this age is actually dependent on another attribute. So we'll discuss this later. The third thing is gender, okay, which is also maybe dependent or not dependent, we'll discuss that later, but this gender is also not an good attribute, we can say that. And then city. So all these four attributes are not too good, but the ID is, because the ID represents any students, right? So when you get an ID card from the department or from any office or etc., so you have some number, maybe this is long number. Say for example, in our Aadhaar card we have 12 digits like this, 1 2 3 4 1 0 0 1, sorry, this 000. Let me clear it. I'm just writing here example, maybe this is your Aadhaar number, but we have 12 digit format of Aadhaar card. So this is actually the unique identification number of your Aadhaar card. So similarly, in any university or college you get an ID number which is known as enrollment number. So this type of attribute which actually represents the entire entity, actually the characteristics of any entity, is known as key attribute. So this is the first attribute. Now when you will make an entity relationship diagram, you have to write entity like this, and you have to write the key attribute with an underline. Suppose if your key attribute is roll number, you have to just make an underline, and this is the unique attribute of any entity relationship diagram or relation. So you don't have to repeat this key attribute in any single entity diagram. It means that you can't have two key attributes in a single entity relationship diagram. So be careful and be ready to make an ER diagram with with only one key attribute. Okay, now we are going to learn the next attribute, that is multi-valued attribute. So what is multi-valued attributes? So multi-valued, sorry, my pen is stuck. Multi-valued attribute, I'm just writing in short, and the writing is so poor, no problem, you just try to understand the feelings. Okay, so what I said, multi-valued attributes. What is multi-valued attributes, sir? Okay, do you have a cell phone? I'm not asking for your phone number, I'm just asking, do you have cell phone? You will say yes sir, I have phone number. So now you tell me how many SIM cards you have. Usually in this year, by 2022, every person normally they have two mobile numbers. One is for WhatsApp, another one is for calling. Maybe they are trying to sustain their number for long time. So my concern is that when you have multiple values for your attribute, it is known as multi-valued attributes. Sir, is gender is multi-valued attributes? No, not possible. You can laugh, but please slowly. Sir, is age is multi-valued? No, not at all. Sir, is ID is multi-valued? No, it is not. So only the phone number is multi-valued attributes. Sir, give me another example of multi-valued attributes. Okay, I'm giving you, just wait for it. It is email, right? So these things are actually multi-valued attributes. What is that? Email ID and phone numbers. You can have several email IDs, you can have several phone numbers, you can have several Tata Sky, which becomes Tata Play now, etc. Right? So that's it. And our next attribute is derived attribute. Sir, what is derived attribute? Which is derived actually, like your name, right? I'm just writing attribute here, name. So maybe you have two names. I mean, number one is your first name, okay, that is your actual name, and another one is your surname, which is also known in this world as last name in some countries, but we call it surname. So this is actually derived from somewhere. So if you don't need name in your attribute, so this cannot be created. And if you have any attribute that can have multiple more derived attributes, so which acquires from actually the base thing, is known as derived attribute. So that's it for derived attribute, and that's it for entities. So in this lecture we have learned what are entities, and in the next lecture I am going to tell you what are relations, and we will finish that. Thank you very much.